you.
Oh, yes, thank you. I have lots of apparatus today.
There you go. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in a room with 99% women. I think it's my first.
We're going to talk about that in a second because you said something amazing to me backstage. But first, let's talk about your credentials. Mia Nygren, what exactly does your CV say so that we really get an idea of how special you are?
Thank you for asking. I like to talk about these things because I hope they're inspirational. But first, I just have to say how happy I am to be here in Stockholm. So I was born here in Stockholm, and I spent my first 10 years in this place, and it's my home. So I'm double happy with all you guys in the room and also being here. And to talk about my career and the journey that I've had is something that to the contrary of what Elizabeth said, I actually enjoy doing it. And I don't know if there's a good or a bad thing, but...
it's good.
Is it good? Good.
Pleasure is fantastic.
Yeah, so, how did I end up here as the managing director for Spotify currently? But when I think about it and I try to understand like what happened, there was absolutely no signs whatsoever that I would end up here. When I look back, yes, there were a couple of things in my life that I think shaped who I am and where I am. I always loved music. I was a big consumer. I was a big reader. I was a big buyer of music, but I can't play an instrument, absolutely not. But it was something that I did maybe a little bit more than my friends. There was another thing that I was also very passionate about in a very geeky way. I loved gadgets. I had a computer when I was 10, and that's 100 years ago. I had a mobile phone when I was 15. That was a big box, and I always loved that.
You probably got the same mobile phone that I've got now. I'm trying to ditch a smartphone.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to show you my phone later. It may remind you of when you were 15.
My God. I'll faint. So, yeah, I had those two things, but... the one thing that I could absolutely not have been or done without being where I am today was, I think, my fierce and extremely intense appetite for cultures and understanding the world. I enjoyed very much putting myself in situations, traveling to different parts of the world alone, getting deep into the culture, not just doing a language course for 3 weeks, but really understanding it, because I think language is the first thing, but culture is the most important one. So when you start doing that, it's almost like a drug. You know, you get into a situation and it's super scary, and you get over it, and you get through it, you feel super empowered and strong, and you just want more and more and more. So this is something that I think my current job and what I've been doing for the past 10 years actually has been a great companion for me, because I've been able to develop that and be with a lot of people in different parts of the world. And I just love that.
So I know that you represent something very important for Spotify, particularly in Latin America. And I was very recently in Colombia, just weeks ago, in Cartagena in the north. And I found it so musically enriching. I have been to Colombia before for another music project, and I was in Bogota. But heading towards the Caribbean really lit something up inside of me because of the fusion of sounds, the energy, and basically the relentless music that was all around me from every avenue. For the first 2 nights, I sat on my balcony where I was staying and just stayed silent. I was also alone, traveling alone, and just let the rhythms just inside, because it was so different to those of Scotland. It's been a while, you know. It's 2022. We haven't exactly been like getting around the planet. So to be in amongst that atmosphere was just so beautiful. And I think, again, a lot of us are returning to music and the idea of exploring and travel and experiencing that from a really global, cultural perspective, perhaps in a way that we may have taken for granted before.
Definitely, and I think if we can talk a little bit about Latin America, which is a huge passion point of mine since so many decades back, there is a whole ecosystem of music that is not particularly professional, but it's all over the place. That's why you hear it everywhere. There's an expression. But not only that, I think there's something there that you can't copy or export. It's the consumption enthusiasm. People love to listen and dance to music.
Yes. I even went to what seemingly might have been a quite conservative event, because everybody came straight after the office. It was in a square, and it felt like, oh, this is going to be nice. There was some live music. And even like those who are quite corporate, within like 3 songs was like literally shaking their ties in the air, doing all the moves. I was like, these people amazingly are of such mixed reference, you know, but have music like in their souls. And it's just, you're so lucky to be working in amongst that. Let's talk about your fascinating career journey. So you mentioned being young, having this appetite for culture, gadgets, music, and also buying music. That's not something that we actually very much do anymore. And Spotify really helps us consume music in a very broad and explorative way. Yeah. How did your appetite and passion for music and travel lead you to where you are now, working at Spotify in such a kind of amazing role?
Yeah, so my 2 passion points, music and gadgets, as you said, they actually came together back in the beginning of 2001. So before Spotify, I spent 10 years at a major label in Spain, and I looked after Spain and Latin America. But before that, that's when it all happened. There was a Swedish company, one of the first in the world actually, that started to produce and sell music content for mobile phones. So that's a technology that came from Sweden. The Norwegians say it came from Norway. I don't know. But you could actually charge via premium messages a piece of content. And that company called Mobile Hits, they were looking to expand into Europe. And I had some knowledge about them, and I contacted them and I said, hey, do you want to do this big time in Spain? Because I was living in Spain, and they said yes. So thanks to this company and the founder of that company, that's still in my life today, he said, do it. Sell ringtones in Spain. And so I did.
Why not?
Like a maniac. We sold so many ringtones. And actually, at the time, it was really hard to pay the rights because there was no structure for it. So I was knocking on the doors of the Spanish STEM organization and equivalent, and they didn't know what to do with this. But then as technology evolved, I understood that that piece of content, that little song made up of 6 notes, would convert into a much more sophisticated technology experience, which is the full master right, and those belongs to the big labels. So that's what my next step, going to the label. So it all happened.
A true pioneer in every way.
You're calling me old now. Yeah, I
know. No. Anyway, I think age is wisdom. I mean, I'm all for getting older personally. And by the way, if you've got questions, please do use the QR code. I've got the iPad here, so they all appear. And if you are at home, put it in the chat function, whatever it is that you have to say to Mia today, and I would love to pose the question on your behalf. Let's talk about gender equality, because we were outside and we were getting excited about today. And you did say to me, I'm not sure, particularly in a work capacity, I've been around so many women in one place.
Yeah, I think it's true, actually. And in the past 2 years, I've been doing some speaking and I've been attending conferences, but obviously behind the screen.
Yeah.
And getting in front of an audience, it always gives a little bit of a nervous edge to it, of course, because you're in front of people, anything can happen. On the screen, you can hide. But then when I came in this morning and I saw the room starting to fill up with women, it was really special, actually, because, most of my life, from a professional point of view, but actually not only, also from a personal point of view, has been with more men. Mm-hmm. And we can analyze myself, but maybe this is not the reason for it. But it was very, very special and comforting and fun and exciting to see that these things actually happen. And I'm here with you guys. I'm not going to get emotional, but it was close.
That's, again, though, it touches on the beautiful dichotomy I see of those who who identify as women and are part of the womenhood, is that there is something so uniquely special about being a woman, particularly a powerful one in a successful sense in your career. You are, you're a powerful woman. You've made it. But at the same time, the nuances that I think only a woman can bring are so there, and it is emotional. And that, in terms of leadership, I think is really what's needed in this brave new world that is 2022. Do you not agree? We need more women bosses. Come
Amen.
on.
But it's,
I like this finger clicking happening here, yes.
I think, being here today with you guys, and maybe it's the age that I have that we already touched upon slightly, or whatever it is, I think throughout my life, I never identified as a gender. I was just like, I am who I am, and I didn't think about it, and I don't think about people, what they have between their legs, sorry to say, but I never do.
Yeah.
And this has been, I think, an enormous privilege for me, and I've been extremely lucky to grow up in a place where generations of women have been talking about the gender gap and what it is to be a woman and why it's important. So I'm kind of a Pippi Longstocking over in Latin America, because that's a different story happening there. But I have a huge amount of confidence, again, in myself as a person and not as a gender. And it came to me very easy and organic from my upbringing, I think. But with age and with time, I'm realizing, and also with my travels, that this is so far from what most women feel. And I have to talk about this, and I have to put it into practice more than I do. And I think it's an important message and an important homework for all of us. If we are in a position to talk and inspire younger female professional friends or family members, do it. Don't wait for a festival to happen to do it again. Do it in between them. Okay, make sure you talk to these girls. And I feel that it's getting more and more important, and I'm being more conscious about it lately. I don't know.
I think that's something to do with where we are all at from a humanitarian perspective, to be honest. I think it is time to really consider what the patriarchy is. And that is beyond gender. That isn't about what you have between your legs. No. It's about the structures and the world that we all live in and on. And I think that it's really time to talk about it in an organized manner as well. Yeah. Which is so beautiful for you to say that actually, it's becoming increasingly important to express the need to do the homework, underline the homework, read the books, find those who have spoken before us about civil rights and equality. There is a wealth of information, some of which sometimes distracting, perhaps toxic, and other bits. So much resource for us to really think about and give us the tools to level up and empower a next generation. Yeah. And I think the conversation needs to be had with all. It's speaking to young girls and young boys and trans people and saying, we're coming from a position of love. And I think for true equality, perhaps exploring the idea of non-gender is also very, very important, as you say. And amazing that you are in a place where that is encouraged, because growing up in the UK, we're not that far away. And I wouldn't say that's the same. And I think, we sort of romanticize Scandinavia for many different reasons. And one of those would be that it does seem more progressive in terms of gender equality.
It is, there's no doubt. I was listening to the news this morning in my home language. It was wonderful. But of course, talking about the special day that it is today, the International Women's Day. In Sweden, I think we're calculating approximately 3 generations more before we can feel some kind of equality between the genders. Can you just take that to a part of the world where you have poverty, where the political system is very difficult, there is war, whatever. If it takes 3 generations in Sweden, it's going to take 10 generations over there, right? So that's a little bit what we have. But Sweden is at the forefront, and we need to be proud of that and talk about that outside of our, communities. And it's very, very important. And when I look at women that I have around myself in Latin America, for example, which is a part of the world that has been very challenged historically, always. We have 30% living in extreme poverty. The good thing is that we have half the population is under 30, so they're young, which is cool. There is a lot of new female work opportunities. Women are getting their degrees. Okay, they're getting their jobs. But the big issue that the society and women still have is balance between work and home life.
Right.
So here we have, a daycare system. You can only dream about the daycare system in most parts of the world, right? And this is really important for women. And things are evolving, and it's good to see. I remember when I went on maternity leave, for example, I lived in Spain at the time, and I got 3 months, and I was hysterical about not having my job when I got back. 3 months, nothing. What can happen in 3 months? Now, male colleagues at the company, they take 6 months and they don't even think about it. That's progress. Okay, that's what we have to do. Okay,
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
I did want to ask about specific initiatives and programs that you are seeing around you. I guess that's a great example.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you've seen in terms of progressive change?
Well, what can I say? 2 decades, I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have,
I love that you're still filled with energy and curiosity and excitement.
Yeah.
Because 2 decades can leave one a bit frazzled by the barriers and the injustice, etc.
Yeah.
And I think so. I feel really inspired by the fact that you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel more inspired, and I don't know if it's because where I am at my life that I have the energy to do it, but I've always repurposed myself, even though I'm in the same position, and I think that's very, very important. And then realizing that I can actually help. But yeah, I've seen a lot, and good and bad things. You tend to remember the good things, but of course there are some bad stats out there, and only 1 out of 5 top artists on the biggest playlist that we have are women. Only 1 out of 8 are female composers. Less than 1 out of 10 are female producers. That's just one example in one industry, but those examples and those stats are everywhere, and that's not okay.
Okay. In terms of homework, I'm definitely going to be posting on my social feeds a list of books that have been recommended to me very recently for a young female musician who's coming up and just wanted a list of resources. So I will put them all into one place and tweet and Instagram that out there for those who are here from a musician perspective, so that we can try and collectively change those stats, but in a space where young women feel safe, they feel purposeful, and can kind of reclaim an industry which has been, in some cases, quite damaging for young women to come up in.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is for the music industry, the industry that I'm closest to, but it's definitely everywhere. And we have to do a lot of things about it and talk about what happens. We don't have to talk about only the things that we need to do, but we need to talk about the things that will happen if we don't do it. So if you don't have a diverse board, if you don't have a diverse executive management team, if you don't have a diverse workforce, you are going to stay in the past. The younger generations today, they have a completely different understanding of what gender means and why diversity matters. So you better jump on that, or you're going to be very old very fast.
Wow, powerful.
Thank you.
Anybody watching in a position of power already, please do take note of those words. And it's not necessarily a fight. It's just kind of like a beautiful truth and a chance for us all to sort of shake out and restructure. Because I think, you know, from a cultural perspective, multiculturalism, it is the future, and it is the way for us all to learn from one another.
Yeah, there is absolutely no other way. And I think about it a lot. How can I express the narrative that I have experienced while being very unapologetic and intentional about having a very diverse, almost female-dominant lead team behind me? This has a direct impact on the business. It leads to a better business. So we have to talk about that a lot as well, I think. And this needs to come from a corporate level too, that we acknowledge this and we point to what happens to the bigger business figures, because at the end, that's where people are starting to pay attention, the people that are maybe on the other side. So I think it's important.
This is the thing that kind of gets me about all of these conversations when it comes to equality. I'm going to just use that word because I feel it in my heart when it comes to racial diversity, gender equality, but just general people equality. And this idea that it has to be sides, I feel like that's such a shame. I think that, you know, there's an old world thinking. There's also a new world thinking, and the bit in between doesn't have to be quite so acerbic or quite so angry. It's about kind of like a softer, more dynamic approach, and especially when you reference the economy. It's like, come on, like, it's actually better for us all. I have a question here from Laurie. I don't know whether they are at home or in the audience, but thank you so much. As a successful woman with an amazing career, being in a high-profile role, what are your learnings and what do you advise to other women that are starting out or in the midst of their career? Okay, imagine I'm at the beginning. I'm going to say the beginning of my career. I'm looking up to you today, Mia, and I'm like, where do I begin? What would you say?
Wow, that's this is a conversation I hope I will have with my daughter one day. You know, see whatever she asks me, if she ever will. She's a teenager, so. So yeah, honestly, what I talked a little bit about in the beginning, I was not set on a fixed goal saying I want to do this, if not I'm going to die. It was a little bit of coincidences and letting life happen. But one thing was always clear for me, and it was that I am going to prioritize my work, not because it's a thing that I need to do so I can be an independent woman and pay my own bills. It was just like, I enjoyed very much everything that was happening to me and what I was doing. So you have to understand, what do you enjoy? Where do you want to go? Are you willing also, and this is very important that we acknowledge this among ourselves, are you willing to sacrifice certain things? Because it is about that as well. You know, work and the commitment that you put into it is something that we can't dismiss and think that we can do everything and need to be power women and being the number one in the household and the number one in the workforce. So, and I always say that I was lucky enough to have a partner with me, my husband. He hasn't been working for the past 10 years. But we've been traveling the world, and this was something that my work allowed me to do. So we prioritized that, and that was the most important thing for us. So I think you have to find a little bit what you want to do, and also ask yourself if you're willing to sacrifice whatever that might be in order to do so. I think it's very important. So there is no shortcut, there is no magic formula, but there is just, you know, be yourself and be ambitious. And I know that sometimes being an ambitious woman, and I say this, is for some people being an annoying woman. And that's a balance that we all live with every day. And that's going to be difficult, I guess, to kind of erase. But don't give up. Keep on pushing. Do what you want to do. Again, be unapologetic about it. Make the sacrifices, and you will find your way.
Amazing. And I think language, like the language that we give ourselves, is really special to be able to dissect. Because I think as we move forward, you know, post-global pandemic, in amongst political craziness all around us, I think we should be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think that questioning things is annoying. I think that it's empowering, and I think it's important. And again, it's harnessing something that will make it easier for the next generation, so that they won't be seen as annoying young women, you know, who have to make sacrifices. Also, more power to your husband for supporting the legacy of your career.
Yeah, and he's from Spain, and yeah. I'm not sure what point I'm trying to make here. But
you're just saying, you just stay optimistic and look far.
No, but I can tell you that I get some what can I say? Interesting reactions from people when I say that he's from Spain and he's not working, because they think that there's a macho component for him in that, of feeling like the man that he is to me. And interestingly enough, I get that more, and this is, you know, autocritica, we have to criticize ourselves. I get it more from women in developed markets and developed positions than I get from colleagues in underdeveloped markets, so to say, which is very interesting. I'm not really sure why.
I just hope that changes, and these conversations, you being honest and you know, and expressive about your journey so far and how it continues, it is genuinely helpful for us, because it means that, you know, there are people kind of shifting the framework, and that hopefully we won't find it crazy that a man isn't working but traveling the world and gets to be the partner of amazing you. Sounds like a pretty good setup.
I always say I want to be him my next life.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. It has been so awesome to talk to you, Mia. Thank you so much for traveling this way to be part of Nine Muses. Do you think that there's one practical thing that we might be able to take away from this? I feel like this is a study process as well as a kind of like, you know, fist pumping moment. Is there something that we can collectively take away? If I was to write down one, you know, bullet point as to a piece of advice from a kind of structural business leadership perspective, what can we actively address?
From a leadership business perspective, I think I want to, as I talked about, have a very tight narrative, the business impact of having a diverse team around you, and what that means, not only to do it for the sake of it. You have a lot of companies committing to having a percentage of women in those and those situations. That's fine, and that's all good, and we need to talk about that, and they need to say that. But I want to hear better stories about what happens if you do that. What happened when you actually did that? I think that's something we have to think about, and I need to do better.
Mia and Nygren doing a great job and fascinating for us all. Thank you so much for your truth.
Thank you.
For your passion.
Thank you.
For your general value system when it comes to gender equality on behalf of your team, which is you know, a representation of parity when it comes to gender balance, etc. Thank you. The business impact, yes?
Yes.
We're watching you, world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Let me give you a hug.
Thank you. It was wonderful.